What is up, everyone? Thanks for joining us for episode 104 of the Gamecast. I am one of your hosts, Kenny, and with me is Tess.
Hello, everybody.
And we are back after a short hiatus, just to fill you in on some of the stuff we've been doing. One of which was rewatching Akira. I watched it not too long ago. I wanted to see if it stood up
Akira.
to the test of time. I haven't seen it
Mm-hmm.
in years,
Mm-hmm.
and it does.
It does.
The animation is still great. It's
Yeah.
still awesome. I think the story for me now is a a little more convoluted than it was when I first watched it. I think I was
Mm-hmm.
more enamored by everything to kind of
Mm-hmm.
sit down and be like, what is actually happening in the story? And it's
Right.
not a
Like
bad
nothing makes
story,
sense.
mind
Like.
you. Right. It's not a bad like overall, it's not a bad story. It's very
mm-hmm.
artistically done. But over the, since that came out to now, it's like we kind of seen these stories done multiple times,
Mm-hmm.
and some of them have been a little bit better in terms
Mm-hmm.
of the viewer understanding what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in that aspect, it might be a little rough, but overall, though, the film is great. Like I was looking at
Yeah.
the animation and the detail that they put in, and
Mm-hmm.
some of the things that they were doing with line work, and I was like, wow, like years later, this still looks good,
Yeah.
which makes me feel a way about some of these other animated films that look kind of rough, years later.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was solid. I had a good time. Actually, I had purchased it. They did the anniversary edition of it
Oh,
not too long
nice.
ago, and I got made sure I had it. That along with like Cowboy Bebop and a couple other classic anime that I wanted to have. And so I was
Mm-hmm.
like, let me rewatch it because I bought it off the strength of knowing what it was.
Yeah.
And so I was like, let me rewatch, with my, adult eyes. And yeah, this is pretty great.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I've been rather busy, which is good in a way. With having work, it's never a bad
Work is
thing.
good.
It can be a little stressful, and I can't say exactly why, but I can kind of paint you a little picture. So
Mm-hmm.
I pitched a couple of stories, couple of reviews of different things, and one of the reviews or one of the stories was of a show that's coming out on Netflix, right? And the show kept getting pushed back. It was like, it's going to come out this year, it's come out this year, didn't. But I'm still accepted for it. Like
Mm-hmm.
once it comes out, I'll be able to, write for it or write about it. And so in that time, I'm not waiting. I'm like, well, yeah, I'll pick up this show, this show, this show, this film, whatever. And so this month, I was like, I had a couple of pitches that went and were successful. So I have those to write about. And then my editor hit me up and was like, hey, what about this big show? And I was like, yes, I really want to review that and didn't get time to pitch it. So I'm going to review, I'm going to go ahead and do that one as well. So I fit that in. But the way I did it, I was like, I spaced everything out so my
Mm-hmm.
brain could be okay, because there's a lot of stuff happening this month.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking on Twitter, and there's a website that's like that talks about stuff that's coming to Netflix. Though it's next on Netflix or something like that.
Okay.
Um, and they're very accurate, like really really good with this stuff. And they're like, the show that I'm going to be covering is going to be dropping on July 1st, which means that in order to write about it, I would need to get the screener now.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the biggest shows that's getting ready to drop, because Netflix hasn't announced it yet. They haven't announced the date officially yet, right? And so I'm probably not even going to get a screener until the official date, because when I go to ask for it, it usually is like, hey, I know this is coming out soon. Can I have this, the screener prior to this release date? But if they haven't
Mm-hmm.
announced it, it's like, oh, how do you know that it's gonna? Because that's happened to me before, where they're like, I'm like, can I get the screener for this film? They're like, oh, that was a little mix up. That's actually not coming out till next year, so you're good. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so I have to wait, which means I get closer to the day to when it's dropping before I can actually write about it. Mind you, I have reviews that I'm writing about or writing now for shows
Yeah.
that I'm covering. And so I'm like, I saw the tweet and I was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, oh no, oh man. So it's a good thing in the sense that I will be getting paid for all of this, but
Yeah.
it's like I tend to space things out because of all the other responsibilities that I have, including this show,
Yeah.
that I'm able to do it in a timely fashion so that my brain is okay. And, because it's easy to get burnt out. I've done this for a long time. It's very easy to get burnt out on everything. I
Mm-hmm.
cover too much crap for it to do that. And so that was a little disheartening. But beyond that, it's been pretty good. Pretty solid.
That's good.
But you, what have you been up to?
Nothing.
I know. I
Oh
I,
no,
I know.
I'm up to all kinds of things, which still amounts to nothing. I have tried to catch some shows. I started watching the Serpent Queen, and
Oh, nice. Okay.
yeah, because I love what's her face, and it's her name is escaping me right now, but I absolutely adore her. I'm sorry, I remember what
She's
I
cool.
watched. She's so great. I watched Minority Report, when it came out, and I was like, and I called my friend and I said, "Yo, one of the triplets, the bald girl, she's the bomb," and I literally am in love with her ever since. I remember
Right?
saying it just like that. I was like, "The girl on the bed,"
Yes.
and then my friend's like, "Oh my god, she's so good." Yeah, and I literally watch everything. Just if she's in it, I'm like, "What?" I get so excited. So of course I'm gonna watch that. So I watched a couple of episodes of that, and I haven't made time to watch The Great, and I love that show. The Great is it's just so much fun, but I have
Yeah.
not made time to catch season 3. Um, so I need to work on that. But you know what I do with my free time? Like if I need noise in the background, or if I am, maybe most of the time if I'm not feeling well, I turn off all media because I can't handle it. But
Right.
Inuyasha's on in the background. And so, or if it's not,
Right.
and I'm literally, I know I do this every week. I know I do this every time we record or we talk about this, but like, because I have this show just running, it's just on and I'm watching it. And first of all, Netflix, you guys are a jerk because I need you to stop. Yeah, I'm saying it right plain out. Stop watching me watch my shows. I don't need you to say, "Are you still watching it?" Yes, I'm fat and depressed. I am still watching it. Leave me alone.
Terrible.
Don't make me feel bad for binging. I have nothing else to do today except obviously a whole lot of things I could be doing. I could be drinking V8. I could be doing my Coursera class. But no, I'm depressed and I am literally playing Marvel Snap and Inuyasha's on in the background. But now that I've gotten that out of the way, Netflix, mind your business. Let my dog watch TV. She's watching her father, okay? He's not around. She is literally being like, "Is that my daddy?" And now that she's blind, it doesn't matter because she can't see him. So at least let her hear Ken Narita's voice. Moving on. The point is that I literally am watching this show and I'm just destructing it. Like I'm taking it apart. I take it apart every moment I can because analytical mind, right?
Right.
No, I mean, um, I'm looking at things that worked and things that didn't, like things that we just accepted because we were 20 years old and we were watching the show and
Right.
we were like, "Oh, this is the coolest thing." And we're like, "Oh my God, I love this, blah, blah, blah." And then just like looking at things, and I'm like, "God, this is just such plot armor." And I think like, sometimes when it came to that show, I wasn't always paying attention to what was being used, what plot devices were being used. That was just like, this
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense because there's so many like holes that the longer the show went on, the more holes it was poking in the fabric of what it actually
Right.
was. And things are just like, so there's just like these little details that I started finding. And then, and so I noticed them. And I think it's funny. I kind of want to do like those little TikTok videos where you kind of just say how this is unhinged because there's so many
You
unhinged
should.
moments in the
You
show. Just like,
should.
and I want to once I figure out how to do that. But yeah,
You
like,
should do that with along with your cooking because you got mad followers with the
right
cooking.
with the
It,
bread.
it was a celebration. I was like, oh no,
There was
what is going on
celebration.
here?
And I feel bad to all my not TikTok, what is it called, Twitter, follow people who follow me on
Mm,
Twitter because they're like, "Oh my God, this girl bakes," and I literally have baked nothing, but depression will do that to you. And my niece keeps trying to come over.
yeah.
She wants to make croissants with me because I made croissants from scratch. I put those on Twitter to show everybody that I made croissants from scratch, and we keep like trying to hook up, and then I'm just like, I just can't because I just can't get my body to cooperate. And now my knees don't work. So, so there's that. But that is literally what I'm doing with my free time. I am going back, I'm going through this show, I'm sitting here looking at like things where all of a sudden this guy literally has this sword. He's been running around for 160 some odd episodes or whatever. And then all of a sudden his sword can form a barrier. And like everybody can form barriers now. It's just when the stakes got too, not the stakes, but when opponents got too powerful. Opponents are so powerful now that there's nothing you can
Yeah.
do and they're going to kill you. And the only thing you can do is form a barrier. And I'm like, so you could form a barrier for how long? Because I like 50 episodes you weren't forming barriers and nothing has changed with you. Your sword got a power up because it got a new power, but it didn't get a barrier. And now all of a
Right.
sudden you can make a barrier. And then something that I'm going to add, but I will never use the show again as an example. But we all know that Yashahime is a terrible show and it doesn't exist. But I just have to draw this thing because this bothers me. You remember? Okay, nobody remembers this, but in Yashahime, apparently, after the twins were born, these twins that Seishomu is not their father. Okay, yeah, that
Mm.
those twins that he apparently has with the girl who's 5. Yeah,
Right.
that whole disgusting story. Yeah, so those
Right.
twins are placed in the woods by themselves because that's what you do with demon kids. And Jockin makes a barrier. And I'm like, Jockin, have you had the ability to make barriers with the two-headed staff this whole time? Because if that was the case, what were you doing the entire show of Inuyasha every time Rin got kidnapped?
Yeah. I feel that way a little bit about One Piece watching it because they'll be fighting someone and they'll just do a new move
Mm-hmm.
and there's been no training, there's been
None.
no anything, and it just comes out of their pocket and they know the move. Like it's just if they say it, you know how like Goku will be like the
Mm-hmm.
Kamehameha and like
Yeah.
because he's done it so much,
Yeah.
he's confident when he says it.
Yeah.
Like I see Zoro doing this move and he's like, you just make up a name and he does it and I'm like, wait, when was that a move? That was never a thing, but it's amazing and I'm happy you did it. But I'm like, there's no flashback, there's no montage of you training and learning this move. It's just like I'm fighting a really strong opponent. I'm gonna try this and I have a name for it and it's gonna work and it works and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna go with it. The story is great. This makes no freaking sense,
Right.
but I'm gonna go with it.
We just
Yeah,
go with
that's
it.
it. Just yeah. So I get it. I get it. It's a weird thing, especially when it seems like it's something that saves them at the last moment. Was it Deus Ex Machina or
Yeah,
whatever it's
Deus Ex
called? It's like it
Machina.
just pops up out of nowhere.
It's like
Yeah,
there's no reason you should be winning. Like the freaking mirror monster at the end, closer to the end of the series, and it's like there's no way to beat the mirror monster because the mirror monster just steals all of your attacks and then just sends it back to you. So you really shouldn't be able to win. And then it's like, oh, by the way, Tessaiga all of a sudden now can form a barrier around us all. So boom, I'm going to put Tessaiga in the ground and we're good. And we're just going to sit here until we figure out what to do.
yeah. I any other characters be looking at him like, when, like yeah. Anywho, that's just us nerding out
Yeah, because we're
a
nerds.
little bit, a little bit. You mentioned Marvel Snap. That was another thing.
Oh
I have
yeah.
been playing video games as well.
Mm-hmm.
I've been yeah, like I have been busy, but I have been playing
Mm-hmm.
games as well. Because Street Fighter 6 came out, and then
Ooh.
Diablo, for the people who didn't get the early access, came out as well. So I've
Mm-hmm.
been playing Diablo 4 and Street Fighter 6, and having a great time. The
Mm-hmm.
was it Summerfest was today for gaming, and they announced a lot of cool games. We saw Mortal Kombat, the new Mortal Kombat that's coming out,
Mm-hmm.
and it's great. Like this year has been really great.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a lot of time to play all these games, but it's been
Yeah.
really great. And they did do a segment with Marble Snap that didn't make much sense to me, but they did announce a new mode that's coming.
A new
So I just want to throw
mode.
some gaming stuff in there because it's been a while since we talked about video games for obvious reasons. But
Yeah.
it's Marvel Snap is definitely in my rotation. I think
Yeah.
that has replaced all of my mobile games. I feel like there's no point because I could just do Snap and it's perfect. Like it's not a
Yeah.
perfect game, but it's perfect in the sense of how easy it is to get in and out. And
Yep.
all the matches are like 3 minutes long, if that.
Yeah.
That's if someone's indecisive. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. The few
You
minutes you can
know?
play a few, and as long as I'm not using my data because I'm poor and I only have 1 gigabyte. But if
Mm.
I'm Wi-Fi, hey, I can have a decent time and not worry about that. But yeah, it's honestly, if I'm frustrated with Marvel Snap because everybody decided to get Wong and Gambit and Odin.
Yeah.
Like if I'm kind of like just like okay, there's no way I can be or everybody is doing the what's his name, the high evolutionary thing. So everybody wants to use
I hate that mofo. Like
yeah,
I all of my decks now have Luke in it to make sure that I can't be like, my
yeah.
power go down or
And I don't
whatever.
have Luke,
But
so
yeah, that's rough. I am glad that they every time they do a new season though, they
hmm
take some of the cards that were in the higher tier that are harder to find and they drop them so
hmm
that people can. Because I finally got Super Scroll not too long ago,
I
and
have Super Scroll. I got that like a
oh
couple weeks
nice,
ago, but I don't use it. I when I got Super Scroll, I was like, oh, this will be fun, and then I accidentally nerfed somebody else's Super Scroll by using.
mm.
So okay, everybody, please nerd out with us on this. Okay, please go down this rabbit hole with us really quick because this is important. The week when, or not the week, the day when the peak was the location of choice, I decided to
Right,
have fun. Now I don't have Mr. Negative. If I had Mr. Negative, I would have had a great time, but I
yeah,
don't. So I was playing the peak. I was using all, like a bunch of zero cards
mm.
to flip the cost to zero, and I used
Mm.
Cerebro, and so I used Cerebro, and I used what's his face, Cosmo. Cerebro
Oh,
and
okay, yeah, yeah,
Cosmo screwed Super Scroll like crazy. This guy was getting
yeah.
all of my Super Scroll. He got everything because I a lot of times you will see me using the deck that has Iron Man and Onslaught. I love
Okay,
doing that combo, especially with the Nexus.
yeah.
And I will almost always have a lot of ongoing cards. And so this guy was getting all of my stuff. He had my Blue Marvel because I think we had one less cost. Cost was lower and all this
Yeah.
stuff. So he had my Quinjet. He had my Blue Marvel. He had Iron Man, Onslaught, and I said, you know what? And I threw Cosmo out there, and
Mm.
Cosmo completely just killed him because of
Yeah.
he. I think he threw on. I think his final move was either it was definitely an on reveal, but I think it may have been like Odin or something like that. But it whatever it
Yeah.
did, it completely killed his ability to do anything, and then he was just and I ended up winning something that I was actually completely losing. I think, yeah, I was completely gonna lose. I was like, well, I'm giving him all of the cards, and then I played Cosmo, and then he just lost. I was like, wait, how did he lose?
Yeah.
Cosmo.
It's that happens. That happened with me with someone who had Super Scroll who also
Mm-hmm.
had destruction deck
Yeah.
and I had armor. And so he took and see the thing is with him, he doesn't show you that he has the ability. Like you know how
Yeah.
armor she puts that wall up
Yeah.
and
She puts the wall up. Mm-hmm.
he doesn't it isn't you don't physically see it but the wall is
Yeah.
there. And
Yeah.
so he was putting cards to destroy certain cards that so he
Yeah.
could play and nothing happened.
Yep.
And he was like, "Oh crap!" Like I could hear it through the phone. I could
Yes.
hear him being like, "Crap! I totally forgot that he took the yeah." And it was a walk after that. It was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
It was great. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Snap's fun.
that is Snap. We got to play sometime. I know you don't have all the cards. I don't have
I
all the
know.
cards,
Right.
but we definitely got to play
Well, yeah, we'll just
sometime.
play. And we'll what do you do at least? Twitch it.
There you go. There you go. We will
I still
definitely
don't
do
know how to
that.
use Twitch. I don't know how to do it.
I got you, fam. I got you. And and side note for the people who are listening, outside of our usual fans who know that we nerd out about a lot of stuff, um, just a note as well. We make certain comments on here. We've spoken off air about a lot of things, so the
Mm-hmm.
comment by itself might seem odd, but it's we speak, folks. It's okay. It's all right. Um, because I know some people listening is like, wait, she's depressed. What happened? Like, is we okay? We everything's cool. It's just If you just listen to us a little bit, it's our humor,
Right.
or actually, it's kind of like black folks' humor because we make fun of a lot of stuff that we probably should make fun of, but it's kind of a healing thing.
Yeah, it's our
Go to
healing.
Black Twitter. White
Right.
people is not a real place. Go to Black Twitter and you'll see,
Where do I find this black Twitter? I downloaded I remember that
fam.
conversation.
And what's crazy is after such and such took over Twitter, I saw that come up more often. It's wild. It's a wild wild
Yeah.
west out there right now.
Yeah.
Anywho, we want to talk about two main topics this week.
Mm-hmm.
One of them being Bryan Singer's new documentary. Now,
Mm.
it's not 100% official, I don't think. I
Right.
was looking up because this is over the place, but Variety had the exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Tatiana Siegel. I believe that's how you pronounce her last name.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically, if you aren't aware of who he is, Bryan Singer is the director of um, X-Men, the X-Men films. He was also recently, I want to say that was back in 2017, 2018. He got fired from Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah,
I think that's how you say that.
Rhapsody. Rhapsody.
Rhapsody. There you go. I can read,
Yeah.
folks. Um, he was fired. It was a big deal, and it was because of sexual assault allegations.
Right.
Apparently, allegedly, I'll say, he sexually assaulted four men when they were underage, and which just seems to be a thing with directors and actors or whatever. But anywho, he denies it, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but that didn't help, him denying it, and he went on to have trouble landing other directive roles
Mm-hmm.
in upcoming films, and so he has been trying to make a comeback of sorts. He's going to be directing, I want to say, two films that are going to be self-financed, and one of them, based on the sources that Variety has gotten, is a documentary about his struggles. Now, we're not talking about struggles in the sense of how he became a director. Like when we were talking to um, director Derek um,
Scott
about his
Derrickson
or
or
Derrickson about how he went to the theater and he had that experience and then he wanted to be. We're not talking about that. We're talking about his struggles getting hired after the sexual allegations,
mm,
and so that is what the documentary is going to be about: a self-financed documentary about the allegations of sexual misconduct and how his career is potentially going to bounce back after that, right? And
mm,
so I don't know how that works. If you
yeah.
understand documentaries, if you understand, I don't know, like the idea that you can't fund your own freaking documentary about sexual assault, like no one's who's going to think this is going
Yeah.
to be unbiased. I mean, there's
Yeah.
always bias. Like no matter what we do, there's going to be some form of bias. But you think about it, if I was accused of something that has hurt my career and I'm trying to get back in everyone's good graces, it would behoove me,
Mm-hmm.
if I had the money and I was a director, to make a film like this and to paint myself as the best person I could possibly be.
Right.
Even I might sprinkle in a little truth here and there. I did, you know, catcall someone I shouldn't have. You know what I mean? Or I
Mm-hmm.
did have a run in with this person and it didn't go well. But that's to kind of make it a little bit more believable. But anything about the sexual misconduct, it's like, why would anyone believe?
Yeah.
How is this a good, like, your name is attached to this? Like, how is that
Yeah.
a good idea? Are you not? This is like freaking Jonathan Majors' lawyer releasing those text messages.
I just
This
don't
is
know.
gonna backfire. And I'm allegedly, I'm not saying that anybody's done anything. I want to make that clear, but
Mm-hmm.
I also want to make clear that this is not a good idea.
Yeah, it doesn't look that great. I'm sorry.
Like, can you imagine R. Kelly? He's not R. Kelly, but can you imagine R. Kelly with a documentary that he did? Like, nigga, if you don't go sit,
Have all of the seats in your solitary confinement jail where you are 17,000 million miles away from children.
yes.
And
And
women.
again, I'm not saying that Bryan Singer had did this. Like, I remember reading about this and was like, wow, that's messed up,
That's
and kind
wild.
of kept it moving. I didn't
Yeah.
really, because he kind of went away from the limelight, like he was kind of
Yeah.
gone for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and so I didn't really think about it at all until just recently when I read that. And yeah, I was like, man,
Yeah.
that's extremely interesting.
I saw this and I was, I mean, the first thing when I read it, I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna go back to work. But then um but I was just like, I can't right now. But I my issue with this is I don't understand how a documentary that is self-financed is supposed to be objective. I don't understand how people are supposed to not take it with a grain of salt if they were to watch it. Like
Like
I'm
a bag of salt, right?
like
Like
it's
that's
a whole Morton's like it's just like the girl, literally the girl walking. The salt is leaking. It's
like
like
all the
it's just
girls with
all of
umbrellas, all of them.
yeah,
Yes,
like yeah. And I just don't see how that being in the media already right now, like I don't see how that's supposed to help. I don't because I don't like if I this is not a third party documentary. This is not something that's objective. This is
right.
you. So maybe so I don't know how documentary ish this is gonna be. You know what
Yeah,
I
like
mean? Like I
is he
don't.
gonna interview the men that because they were like, for
They're.
instance, two of the teenage boys, one was
Mm-hmm,
14, the other was 17.
mm-hmm,
They filed a civil lawsuit claiming that they were ordered to strip naked for a scene,
right.
while two other young actors made similar allegations in separate civil suits. So they were, what I mean? Like it was, is he gonna
Right.
go and be like, because like documentaries, like when they did the R. Kelly one, right? They went
Mm-hmm.
and they talked to the victims, and they were
Yeah.
like, "When did this happen? How did this happen? Can you explain this, et cetera,"
Yeah.
to kind of get their side of the story. Is he going to
Yeah.
do that? And if he
Yeah.
does, is he going to air it all? Because they're not
Yeah.
going back. It's not like they made us. At least I haven't seen anywhere online. They didn't make
Mm.
a statement saying that they were wrong, or they
Right.
thought one way, but it actually wasn't that.
All we
Um,
know is that it was settled.
right. So, and even with that, I don't believe you can talk about it legally. Like,
Yeah.
so how is he? You know what I mean? He can't interview them. He can't really
Yeah.
talk about the settlement. He can't really. Um, none of the family members are going to want to do it. I don't think so.
Yeah.
And so all of the things he would have is just the news media surrounding it, and that is going to look bad too, because are you going to paint the media as the big bad guys who made you lose your you know what I'm saying, because we
Yeah.
wrote about what you did, or allegedly did.
Right.
Allegedly, I don't know if he
Allegedly.
did it,
Right. Right. Right.
right? But like,
Mm-hmm.
is that your plan? Like, none of that seems feasible. Like, none of that seems like a good idea. And
Yeah. It
he's paying a
doesn't.
lot of money. He's paying a lot of money to do this.
How much is it? Do you know for this one?
I want to say, well, he has two different films, but I think, yeah, it's supposed to be 10 million. 10 million, and granted,
Okay.
that's small in film money,
Yeah.
but a
That's
lot of
yeah.
money to me. Like, I don't got,
Yeah.
like, I don't got 1 million. So,
Right. Um. Yeah. That it just it doesn't. I don't know. No, not I don't know. No, no. I don't think that that's a good idea. It doesn't make sense to me. I just feel like it's a I don't know the word, but it's a contraindication of what
conflict of interest,
it's a conflict of interest.
probably.
Yeah, like it feels like I mean I do understand like yeah, okay, if you have a story that you want if you want the truth out there, you're gonna do this blah 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 blah. You're gonna be like, okay, this is what I'm gonna go do, and I'm gonna tell everybody through my eyes and through my this that and the other blah blah blah. But
Right.
I don't necessarily. I mean, is I guess yeah, I guess that is what a documentary is, but I can't
It doesn't make
I
sense. I mean, I think the closest thing I could think of that could work will be a tell-all book, because
yeah,
people do that.
like
They
this
do
is
a
what
tell-all book, and
happened.
right, it's their side of
Yeah.
the story, uh,
Or was the camera
and
crew
then with
following you
that,
around during that time?
exactly,
Yeah.
and it's not the same in the sense of, because a documentary is supposed to be centered, so like
Mm-hmm.
the story is here, and then we gravitate around that with all the
Mm-hmm.
different
Yeah.
people, and so you get a fuller view of what happened. You
Yeah.
interview all sides.
Yeah.
With a tell-all book, it's like it's just me. You know
Yeah.
what it is
Yeah.
before you buy it. I'm the only one talking,
Yeah.
and it's from my perspective. So then
Yeah.
that makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah.
But a documentary,
Mm,
that's
yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
That's and it might be genius in the fact that people will watch it. People will
Yeah.
definitely watch
People are
it,
gonna they'll watch. People watch anything, right? I
right?
mean,
Just to see what
except
happens.
except China and Korea with the Little Mermaid.
Right. See, we're not even going to see. I think it's hilarious the people who are hating on Little Mermaid, and for the reasons they were hating, and come to find out that she is killing the role, like making them all look dumb in the face. Like I am ecstatic about that, and I
I'm
haven't
like,
even
go
watched the movie
Hallie,
yet.
go
But
Hallie.
I know, and what I will say is that it's dope. Not even because I wasn't like the Little Mermaid. I wasn't a big fan of the original, and
Mm,
we spoke about that.
mm,
But I took my daughter shopping not too long ago. They didn't even know about the film. They saw the toys and was like, "Oh, that's the Little Mermaid," but she has brown skin, and they were like, it was huge the way they
mm-hmm,
erupted, like, "Oh my god, she's black," blah blah blah, and
mm-hmm.
like they were like, "This is amazing," and I was like, you know what, makes sense. It's when we talk about representation, like there aren't many Disney princesses that are black or brown even, and the
Mm-hmm.
one that we had was a frog majority of the film. So the fact that we're getting there's facts, it's bad. I'm not a
She's a
fan of that
frog.
movie.
She's a frog,
Um,
yo.
you know what I'm saying? And like the fact that she could be, they could see them, and it's like, oh, this is my Ariel. That's dope. That's
Yeah,
dope. I'm not gonna get into it because that's a whole nother.
it's a
That's an
whole other
episode. And when we do
cast.
watch it, I do want to talk about it whenever it comes to
Yeah,
Disney Plus or whenever we get a chance to watch it.
yeah.
Um, I'm definitely gonna talk about it because, yeah. But I don't. I don't know. People are interesting. I think
People are
that it's gonna
interesting.
sell. It potentially gonna sell because everyone wants the tea,
Yes.
especially if he's gonna go up and be like, "I didn't do this. Here's the proof.
Mm-hmm.
I was never there," and blah blah. And he has some type of document. Like people are gonna want to
Yeah.
know how much it makes.
Mm-hmm.
I can see him selling it to like
Well,
like not
Netflix loves the
Netflix.
scams. Netflix loves the
They
scams.
do,
They do love the
but I don't know if they
documentaries.
would do it from his point of view though.
Yeah,
I think they would try.
no,
They would want to do it from someone else's, like
something
a
objective.
neutral party
Yeah.
type thing. But I could see it. I could see it being sold there. I could definitely see it. And I don't know if he's directing. Let me say that he is footing the bill.
He's footing the bill.
I don't know if he's directing. It's still bad, but I don't know if he's actually directing
Yeah, yeah,
himself.
yeah.
So I'll throw that out there.
Yeah. And that
Um,
media thing you said makes sense though. If he wanted to like come for the media and talk about how the
right.
media storm, because that's kind of what a lot of people who are on this it basically kind of like the stories that are surrounding some of the men who've been accused right now.
Right.
That's kind of where people are going. They're like the media is just going off the rails with stuff, and that's what happens. And because there are a lot of the people who are like writing for Jonathan Majors right now who are saying that they're like, yo, there's nothing there. The media went. They took this little bit of information and went da 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 da. And I'm like,
Fam,
I, just,
we
I
there's
so I
always going to
think
be
that he might be
sensationalism.
doing that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sensationalism is
Right. I
can
mean,
be
there's always going
bad.
to be sensationalism, but there's
Mm-hmm.
also like reporting on what it is that's come out. So if
Mm-hmm.
I say, you can't say that I'm being sensational if I say he was accused of A, B, and C.
Right, right,
That's not what it is. You know what I'm
right.
saying? Or speculating on whether or not he'll
Mm-hmm.
be with Marvel after this.
Right.
That's not, the media isn't doing anything. You and whoever called 911, whoever did whatever, that's who's
Mm.
done it. We are
Mm-hmm.
just reporting on it. That's not, it's not the same thing. But yeah, people do
Yeah.
that. Fake news, they're blowing things out of proportion. They're trying to cancel people. A lot of it is
Yeah.
just justice or the repercussions
Yeah.
of your actions. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like it's that's all it is. So
Yeah.
I hope he doesn't take that angle because it's not going to. I mean, it will
I
work for a
don't.
certain demographic,
Right. It work for certain people. Yeah.
but it won't work,
In the general
universally.
population, it won't. Yeah.
Right.
That's a
Not
bad
enough for him to get
idea.
hired again. You know what I'm saying? Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, the next thing we wanted to talk about was the remake of White Man Can't Jump, and you know,
I feel like
the one
today's
thing I
just
can
a
say is,
bash cast.
I look. They're lucky I'm not talking about a House Party remake. This is at least better than that. This is at least better than that. That was such a bad film. I didn't even want to recap it.
Yeah.
That it was so bad.
Yeah.
But I think that I'm disappointed White Man Can't Jump. We didn't think it was going to be
Mm-hmm.
that great to begin with. We spoke about it
Right.
way back when
Mm-hmm.
whatchamacallit, Woody Harrelson talked about it. We are, but at the same time, we're like, we still want to see it. It's coming out. You know what I'm saying? It's on Hulu.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and what's interesting though is that it had potential. I didn't think it would. It had potential to be something decent because
Right.
they were taking a different approach. They just kept going back to, so there was two things I had issue with. They were going
Mm-hmm.
back to the original film and they had nods to the original film, which I didn't think they
Yeah.
needed. I
No.
think that
They
just make it
need.
your
Yeah.
own. And it was something that seemed to be stressed early on because they make mention of it, where they're
Mm-hmm.
like, the main character, Jack Harlow's character, um, Jeremy, talks about how this whole stigma of white men not being able to play basketball isn't a thing anymore. Like, why are we even doing this? It's like, oh, okay, so you acknowledge the fact that this is the elephant in the room. We've done this already. Blah blah blah
Mm-hmm.
blah.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, it's this documented that we have great white basketball players for a
Mm-hmm.
long time now. That being said, I'm like, this okay, and then we have the backstory of the black character, Kamal, who is dealing with, he was on his way to the NBA or seemingly on his way to the NBA. He was going to
Right.
go to college to play ball. He got, got first pick and all this other stuff, but got something happened. I'm not going to spoil it, but something
Yeah. Okay.
happened and he
No
doesn't,
spoilers.
right. He doesn't, things don't go, I should spoil it because it's not
We
that great.
should because you. I mean,
Yeah.
to
But
to
things,
get our full emotions out.
right. But yeah, things don't go his way. And so he's angry with everyone about it. He's just, just going through life angry, right? And there's some really cool things that they could have done there story wise, but they lean on the stuff that came before, and that doesn't do it any justice because the other movie is better.
Mm-hmm.
And they also like fuse so many racial jokes and so many like just race
Right.
to the point where like I'm gonna be honest, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have no problem with Kenya Barris.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he is talented enough. And I'm happy that he is getting, all these shows, whether it be from
Mm-hmm.
Netflix, films or whatever, Netflix and all shows, Blackish and all this good stuff. The only
Yeah.
show that I can't speak negatively on is Blackish because I haven't watched a lot of it. I watched a few episodes and the ones I did
Mm-hmm.
watch were great. That being said, the other things that I've seen from Kenya Barris that has to do with race
Mm-hmm.
are poor to me. I don't think
Yeah.
it's a subject he should cover. I just don't. Because I don't think he has, either he doesn't have the aptitude to
Mm-hmm.
convey the messages he's trying to convey,
Mm-hmm.
or he wants everything to be funny. And so his humor derails whatever messages he has
Yeah.
that he wants to convey.
Mm-hmm.
And his humor isn't funny enough to carry that for an
Mm-hmm.
entire however long this movie was. Like the extra side characters, like the ones played by like Vic Missa or whatever, like good comedy with those characters because they're just
Mm-hmm.
it's Mensa being himself for the most
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But a lot of the stuff with Jack Harlow and I can't pronounce the other main lead's name.
I
So
don't
I don't
remember.
want to
I don't
screw it
remember
up.
his name. I just never
Last name
remember.
Walls. I don't want to like screw up his name,
Mm-hmm.
but um, like their dynamic, they can act well. And like shout out to Jack Harlow. I didn't think he was horrible. This being his first like real acting role,
Mm-hmm.
but in terms of their playing off of each other, it's very awkward and just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
yeah, like I don't know. I just don't think he's good at it. I think he has something he wants to say about it,
Mm-hmm.
and it could be I could be wrong. It could be one of those things where like I'm making light of this because I think the concept of race is silly.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, he's almost genius. He doesn't succeed in this, but he's almost genius because I don't I don't believe in that
Mm-hmm.
in a sense that this idea that race isn't a thing, it's a made up thing. Well, yeah, but we are still defined and still treated differently based on our race. So
Yeah.
it's not us
So
just fabricating this out of thin air, you dig? But if that's what he's trying to say, all right, I can kind of see that a little bit more, but you're still not successful.
yeah.
Um, Case in point, like there's a scene where, you know, Jack Harlow's character, they're playing basketball and like they get into it with these other guys. Now, if you've seen the original, you know what happens. They get in a little shoving match. One person gets hit, and the guy's like, "I'm gonna go to my trunk, get my car," and the people around are like, "Hey, he really has a gun. You might want to
Mm.
leave." And they get to moving. Similar scene happens, but instead, someone's like, "Oh, he has a flamethrower." Now I'm dumb because I'm thinking a flamethrower is like new slang. You know, I'm 39. I'm thinking I thought I was hip. I've heard a lot of different phrases or in slang for weapons
Mm-hmm.
that were, you know, there were
Get the
pistols or whatever.
strap.
Right, you know, yeah, 50 Cent, get the strap. Like, so I'm thinking, oh, he has like a Draco or something. Like he has something like that
Mm-hmm.
will set someone's clothes on fire because they got hit so much. No, he has a literal
A
flamethrower.
literal flame. It was
And
literal.
it's hilarious in the scene, but
Yeah.
it's like it's also it's also indicative of the movie in and of itself because it's just random as hell. So
Yeah.
like you will have something that potentially is meaningful and then something that's really really random side by side. The
Yes.
juxtaposition does not work, and
No.
so whatever you have, whatever you're trying to say just falls flat because I'm not focused on that anymore. I'm focused on what the hell just happened. He had a flamethrower.
There's a flamethrower. And
You know what I'm saying? Like there's just,
yeah.
you know, and the same thing with the movie that he did with Eddie Murphy, you know, and
Yeah.
the interracial dating and like the stuff that he's doing, it just doesn't click. It just does not work.
Mm-hmm.
I think you just stay away from just be funny. Just stay away from race though. Just stop it,
Which
fam.
is like his whole thing, though. He is a one
Right, that's
trick
his whole
pony.
shtick.
It's his whole shtick. And I agree. Okay, so and you know, like I love Blackish. Blackish is funny, and
Right,
he
right,
the one thing about Kenya Barris, and he talks about he makes fun of himself in Black AF for this reason
right,
is that he knows that he really hit like gold with Blackish, and
right.
it is palatable it's palatable for everybody and you know it's
Yeah,
network and it made how many seasons you know and it really
right,
really worked and then it spun off with three spin-offs or
right.
whatever. I mean you got Grownish, you had Mixedish, and did they
Yeah,
have another one? But those are all
probably.
very successful. And you
Right.
know Grownish did its what 4 or 5 seasons, managed to get through the
Hmm.
pandemic, and now Grownish is rebooted because the son from Blackish is now in college. You
Right,
know, the son who didn't want to go to college is now in college, so the show continues.
right.
And so anyway, but he, you know, he knows he's a one trick pony. He has discussed this. He plays on it, and obviously that the show is based in race and is also based off of his own, you know, his real life.
Right.
And 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 mind you, those are extremely successful and hilarious in and of themselves. We differ opinions on Black AF because I
Right.
cried the whole way through. I was like, this is ridiculous. I was just like, he went over the top on some of that stuff, and I was like, and like my sister watched it, she thought it was hilarious, and my niece, we all liked it because we're just like, I cannot believe some of the stuff that he's doing in the show is because to me it was just effing ridiculous. But
Right.
when we go to the movies, like when we go
Mm.
to Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? What was the
Right.
movie called? What was it called again?
It's basically that. It's the
It's
remake of
yeah,
that. But
it's Guess Who's Coming to Dinner,
hold up.
but
It is
Literally forgot.
uh we no, that's not it. Where's the
It
movie?
doesn't even
You
matter.
People. You
Yeah.
People.
That I just didn't understand why that movie came out at all. It like I watched it, it was whatever, and I just feel like it would to me. I felt it feels like a TV movie. It felt like something that would have come on a random night when all of our regular seasonal shows are off season, and
Right.
we ended up having to watch something came on, and it
It
was
was
a
very
TV movie.
UPN-ish.
Yeah, and it would come on once, and it would probably never come on. It would maybe come on again 5 years later at 2 o'clock in the morning, and somebody would be like, "Oh my god, this movie came out! What? Oh, I never caught it back like that." And then not many people would talk about it, and then it just go off.
Right.
But like it got a lot of publicity, and I think that's why there was so much talk about people kept talking about it because it was just like there were so many parts of that movie that were let down. And again, I don't 100% blame Kennedy Barris for all of it because he is not the only writer on it. He's not the only
That's true.
he there are other people involved in this, and they all liked it. With that movie, he died. That was the first movie he directed, but Jonah Hill wrote a lot of that movie or something.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
and so like I, anyway, the point is that his name is on it, and so when your name keeps getting on stuff that's like questionable, you're like, oh. So going back to White Man Can't Jump, and again, I mean, Ron Shelton is on this movie as well. So, and Ron
Mhm.
Shelton obviously is the original creator of White Man Can't Jump. So, I mean, I'm assuming it has the stamp of approval, but
Or
um,
money.
or
Yeah.
yeah, or his money. As for writers, it's Kenya and then another person, I think it's Doug Hill. But so again, I don't know who's in charge of what because I don't necessarily understand all of that. That's literally above my pay grade. But this movie was a disappointment. Again, I watched it, and maybe it was more disappointing because I wasn't really feeling well the day I watched it, and I was kind of like, I've been
No,
watching
if you were
Inuyasha
healthy, if you were great, it would still yep, mhm. You would be no different.
because
Mm-mm.
I have the issues, the same issues that you said, where it's like if you guys wanted to make a new movie, then make a new movie with the same title to bring back fans and to make new fans with these new popular individuals.
Right.
Fine. But then there was no real point in bringing back some of like making these callbacks to the old film because it seemed like you just had markers that you needed to meet, like, well, this happened in the
Mhm.
old film, so we're going to make something that's similar. But it didn't make sense for the story that you created because this
Right.
story that was created, I just don't even feel like some of this stuff was necessary. Some of these characters weren't necessary. I love Tiana Taylor. I really do. In
Yes.
fact, I kind of love anything Tiana Taylor is in because she killed
Facts.
Coming to America too. I was just like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, she's just effing awesome. She's got great energy. So I'm not mad at her. I'm not even mad at her role. It tracked. It just worked. It really did work.
Right.
And I felt like she was the one staple or like solid connection to movie one that made the most sense.
Right.
But the other girl, Jack Harlow's girlfriend, I'm like, I don't know if they wanted to make your role similar to the role that Rosie Perez made, but it didn't make any sense. She was so useless. I really
Yeah,
didn't.
Tatiana.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I just didn't understand her purpose because it doesn't seem like the stakes were actually high at all when it came to her. I mean, the stakes were so high in the original movie. Like Rosie Perez's character was a genius and was sitting there saying, I have all kinds of ridiculous knowledge in my head. And one day Jeopardy's going to call. And when they call, you know what I mean? Like, she's like, they're going to call me. And then what happens? Jeopardy does call her. Okay. Like, she really had this they had the struggle life going for them. They were both on the struggle bus. They were struggling. But she was like, it's going to happen for me. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And it happens. Now he's doing his own little hustle struggle. Yeah, I'm going to play ball and I'm going to hustle. And I'm going to do these things because, this is my identity and this is who I want to be, XYZ, blah, 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 blah. But she's like, stop losing my money.
Exactly. It was her money. It
It's
wasn't
her
his
money.
money. It was her money.
Stop.
And he takes the money.
Yeah.
He
And
takes the money.
disrespects her.
Right. And it's whereas this was more so like she cared about him in terms of hurting himself. but it was
Yeah.
also like I'm kind of taking care of you um, with the things that I'm doing. But her big break was like none of the money he's putting up is your money, and not to say that she shouldn't be upset because he's not telling the
No, she
truth.
definitely should.
But the idea that if it's that big enough a deal for you to move or to for y'all to be at a state of separation, then the way it ends, and I'm not going to spoil it, but the way things
No, you
are
should.
resolved does not, because then it's not that it wasn't that big of a deal.
In the
Like
first
there's,
place.
and you know what, and all that doesn't even matter in the grand scheme of things because if everything else before and after that was actually
Mm-hmm.
decent, we wouldn't even care. We'd be like,
It
whatever,
wouldn't.
this is a happy ending or whatever
Yeah.
that isn't deserved, but everything else was great. Not a problem. But no, there's
No.
a lot of it just didn't work. And like you were saying, at least even going back to the house party movie, at least they tried something different.
Mm-hmm.
Like there were some nods in terms of like a dance scene, but for the
Mm.
most part, it was like we're doing something different. And
Yeah.
so it just that different was really bad. Um, whereas this was like we're towing the ropes, and there's some things here that can kind of go left or right, and we have a decent story on paper, but
Mm-hmm.
how we deliver this story, it goes from a a story that could be decent with a couple of laughs. We've seen it before, but whatever. Like you said, TV film
Yeah.
versus what it turned out to be was a film that didn't quite reach the heights that it was aiming for, and it did not reach any of the heights that the original film had. All you have is a comparison, and the comparison's bad, like really
Yeah.
bad.
I have a
It,
lot of ununderstandings of the premise. I'm watching this movie and the jokes are starting, the white boy this and the this that, and I was just like, are y'all still doing this? I don't know. I don't
right.
go to the court. Like I don't go to the gym. Like I used to, I used to go to court when I was a kid. Used to hang around the basketball court. High school. Even in my 30s at the gym. Like and but I'm like, are y'all? Is this actually a thing? Do y'all still do this? Like, do people like? Do you literally still do this? And so again, I think that for something that's apparently coming in the year 2023, I was just a little. I just didn't know that this was still funny. I didn't know that because it's funny if this is still your reality.
Exactly.
If this is
Exactly.
still a reality that a lot of people are living and experiencing, then they're going to be the ones driving. They're going to be the ones um, setting the bar, saying that this is funny. Oh, you don't get it because this doesn't apply to you. Okay, fine. It I don't find myself to be very hip in popular culture anymore. I'm a kind of a hermit, but I'm just not. I'm looking at it and I'm just saying I don't know where this is happening. Again,
I
I
mean,
don't want to discredit that race, like just like we were saying earlier, race stuff still happens. But I think that I was just like, is it like this?
I don't think so. Like even just like I said, Black Twitter. Uh, but
Mm-hmm.
like the things that we see that are comical aren't delivered in this fashion. It
Yeah.
doesn't. It's almost like having fat jokes in 2023.
Right.
They don't hit the way they did because they're not. Majority of the people who are you would be targeting are younger, and they don't see it that way. They don't
No,
think that's funny. And
it's
so,
not.
if you're making a new White Man Can't Jump in 2023, and your jokes are like 90s, like you know what I mean? And they weren't even that good. I think the
Yeah.
banter between a couple of characters were funny because I think they have natural chemistry and just
Yeah.
being black folks. That's or Taylor when she would talk to uh, Jamal and like
Mm-hmm.
he would tell her about the plants he ate or something or whatever, and she's like,
Yeah.
okay, like that's. I feel like that's how she would respond in real life. You feel me?
Yes.
And so,
She's always playing
but like,
herself.
yeah, but like some of the jokes or like even the way we would position a joke about a black man dating a white woman is
Mm-hmm.
different than how they would do it there. And mind you,
Mm-hmm.
we're not a monolith. We all
No.
have different, you know, ideas of what's funny. We all have different ideas of even like just black people from LA, New York, whatever the case may
Mm-hmm.
be. Things are a little different, but
Yeah.
universally watching it, it didn't seem like something we would say. It didn't seem like it came off naturally because of the actors, but it didn't come out naturally as in you would actually would you joke like that? Probably not.
Right. Like
You wouldn't care to joke.
I I feel like they tried to say, okay, well, Jack Harlow's character would be this bold because he secretly was able to back it up. Like his character really, really was talented and he could back it up X, Y, and Z. But I'm just like, but why would you be this aggro? Like, I
Right.
just feel like nothing made any sense to me. Like just the world that was happening while I was watching doesn't make any sense to me. But if I watch the '90s version, everything makes sense.
Exactly.
It just all makes sense at that time. Like, can we just sit here and talk about how basketball was integrated, like how this was a sport that was played by white people and then black people were able to get on teams and this, that, and the other, and then there's a shift as time goes on about black people being all kinds of extra on the court and dunking and when white men weren't
Right.
doing that. The whole premise, this whole idea that built that story, was based
Yeah.
off of observational truths.
Right.
This story with the same title makes no sense.
Exactly. It's the observation isn't there. It's
Yeah.
not like just looking around. It's not. It's similar in the sense of we still dominate the sport, but not similar in the sense of is this relevant today? Like, does anyone like? And that's what Jack says at the beginning, where he's like, "Is that still a thing? Like, are we still doing this joke all these years
Right.
later?" And the answer is no. But you did the joke.
But you did the joke.
Like,
Yeah,
you did a
like
whole hour and some change of jokes like this
yeah. And I'm like,
when you
because
just addressed it.
it could have been squashed in the first 5 minutes and we could have actually had a
Right.
different movie. We could have
It's like
had a
it's like
different movie.
exactly like get this out the way real quick. We ain't doing this. Boom.
Yeah,
And then
boom.
the whole nother movie. And you no, you went backwards. That's not what we were doing.
It doesn't make
Okay.
any sense. Useless characters, useless dialogue to push what? To push what?
And I was thinking, I don't even know what the
Stakes.
message is.
I don't either. I don't either because in the original one there were stakes. I
Right.
just like there was stakes. There was identity. There was if we're gonna sit here and say okay, a bunch of black people are clowning a white dude about playing basketball. Oh, you can't hang. You can't this. You can't. You no. You literally can't hang because you don't dunk.
Right.
Okay, all that kind of stuff, and then bonding and being useful to each other or whatnot, and creating a relationship and
Right.
welcoming somebody into your home, X, Y, and Z. There's something being created here, a cultural shift, and welcoming somebody else into a culture that they're not part of, and then
Mm.
that individual experiencing things that are not necessarily singular to that culture, but what happens to Woody Harrelson in the first movie, black people would look at him and be like, "Well, now you one of us." Okay, if
Right.
you're gonna lose your girl and you're gonna lose your place or all that kind of stuff, you're gonna lose all those things. The black man's gonna be like, "Well, now you black." that
Right.
that
You
that that struggle was it's not singular to black people, but black people will look at that and be like, we've been struggling and now you are experiencing that. Well, we're homies now.
and they did. There was a point where he's like, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
force you to do any of these things, and it's
Mm-hmm.
the result is on you.
Yeah.
But I'm a rock with you though because
Right.
I get it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And while there are some moments of that here, like when he goes to the cookout, it's spoiled by the fact that he brought Hennessy. It's like that's still we're still doing this. Like
But
it's not even a
did he bring hip? Did he bring the hypnotic though?
right. That's just how
Waiting for
far back are we
Incredible Hulks
going?
here.
Right? How far back are we going? If he said anything 40-ish, it would have been a problem. If he was talking about his car or whatever, I'd have been like, I'm turning this off right now. Like, no, no, not at all. You're not doing this. Mm-mm. Nope. But I'm saying it's like, and then like all the black people looking at him like, oh, you're bold, and it's like this is yeah, for now, this is very bold. Where it
Yeah.
would just like awkward. We get it. Back in the day, you didn't
Mm-hmm.
know. We
Yeah.
will learn you though.
Yeah.
Versus now, it's like, oh, you should know. You have
Yeah.
Google. You've been around black people. You have a black girlfriend. You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing with your
What are you
life?
doing?
And
What are
she
you
let him
doing?
bring it. I almost, bruh.
None of it made sense. It was just a whole lot of everything and the kitchen sink. Just throw it all in, guys, and then we'll edit stuff down. I was just really lost as to why things were happening and why people existed and why people were there. I think it would have just, like I I'm sorry, nothing is better than Rosie skating away, literally
Facts. Rosie
skating away.
did an amazing job. And it wouldn't have been so bad if everything was wild and crazy, like with the flamethrower, right? Everything's
Mm-hmm.
over the top. I actually would have preferred that because then I
Yeah,
wouldn't be. But the fact that you're trying to deliver some, or at least seemingly trying to deliver some sort of message here,
yeah,
then I have to look for it.
yeah.
If Get Out was just a movie about people abducting black folks, then it's
Mm-hmm.
like, all right, that's all it is, whatever. But the
Right.
fact that there's race involved to the extent that
Mm-hmm.
it is like, okay, you
Yeah,
need to do it well
yeah,
then. This is
yeah,
what you set out to do.
yeah.
And you want to say something. You are trying to say something in several levels,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be the angry black man
Mm-hmm.
or the idea that you didn't live up to your father's expectations, or
Yeah.
the idea that you are being taken care of by your significant other, or
Mm-hmm.
there's all these different attributes and aspects culturally that you're making reference to
Mm-hmm.
that you then do nothing with.
Nothing
Like,
at all.
you feel me? It's like, if you weren't trying to do that, why put it in?
Why?
You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying like, because you have to form a universe for your characters, but
Yeah.
it could have just been silly. It could have just been a silly film,
Mm-hmm.
had
It could
nothing
have
to do
been
with
Space
race.
Jam. It could have been.
Right.
It could have.
We ain't trying to say nothing pathetic or whatever here. We were just trying to, have
It
fun.
it could have been,
You know what I mean?
hey, two guys play basketball. Like it could have been called Two Guys in
Yeah.
a Basketball. Like it could have been any that didn't need to be called White Man Can't Jump. It didn't need to have any of these aspects. None of it. In fact, if White Man Can't Jump wasn't in the title, I would have watched this and been like, "Damn, he bold." Just like like I would have watched this with more
Right.
intrigue and been like, "What's happening here? Like what's going on?" Instead of me knowing what the title is and knowing, okay, well, and then just kind of being turned off by the kind of ridiculous of the jokes. And like I was saying to you off camera, like, okay, there's 4 race jokes in 4 minutes, and it would have been funny if they only did one of the jokes. Like in no
Right.
particular joke, it's just one of them because all 4 were too many. Like
Right.
I don't know what you guys are trying to say except let's throw in a bunch of black and white jokes. Y'all,
Yeah.
you
It doesn't.
just
It
throwing
doesn't
black and
do
white jokes
anything.
doesn't do anything. That's not funny
Yeah.
anymore. It's just not.
Yeah. And it wasn't even. I mean, because going backwards, it was funnier then because they was trying to say something. This is a thing that we're trying to show you the differences here in a way that
Mm-hmm.
highlights certain aspects of our life. And so we can make a joke about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We understand. Whereas a person who's outside of our culture probably wouldn't. But
Mm-hmm.
it's delivered in a way that, oh, this is funny. I see what you're trying to do here, what you're trying to say. It's wrapped up in whatever's happening that year, like 1990, whatever the case may be. Whereas this is a joke that was told years ago that wasn't all that funny then, has no bearing on what's happening now, isn't relatable now, and doesn't move the story because it's throwaway.
Yeah,
Just
they were
throw
all
this,
throw. They
just
were a
drop
bunch
this
of
joke in there. This
throwaways.
joke too. Doesn't really matter. Just throw that in there. Whatever. Yeah. So that is our non-spoiler review of White Man Can't Jump. We and like, hey, we could do a spoiler review, but then you wouldn't have to suffer through it. And we want you to go ahead and suffer through it so that you can understand. Because if I tell you what's happening, you're gonna go see it and you're gonna be like, "Oh, it's not that bad."
Yeah, that's true.
It is. It is.
It is.
It is that bad. And like I said, the only thing I can say is that it has potential. It had the potential to be better than what it was,
It did.
and it's better than The House Party. That film you do not need to see. Don't.
I haven't even seen it, and
If
I
you
have no
saw go
intention.
see the original again. Go see the
Yeah.
original again. It's or heck, see 2 or 3. All of them are better than this one.
House
Trust me.
Party 4.
Don't. Um, But yeah, that is our show for today. Thanks
Yeah.
for hanging out with us. If you're listening on YouTube, feel free to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're up on all the new content that's coming out from us. If you're listening on Amazon or iTunes or any of those type of places, add us to your RSS feed, subscribe again so you're up on all the new content. If you're over at Audio Boom, which is where our main headquarters is, it has all the links to all those different places as well. But you can just subscribe there, and then you can just click on whatever app you want to listen to, to. Because I know like Spotify sometimes with all the podcasts that they have, it can be hard to find. But if you go to Audio Boom, it's just right there. It takes you right to Spotify. But yeah, we will be back with more stuff in the following weeks. There's a lot of stuff coming out. I'm actually going to take I'm actually going to see going to take some family members to see the new Spider-Man film, going to see the new Transformers film. So there's a lot of stuff to
Mm-hmm.
talk about. Also video games. I'm playing a lot of video games, that too. So stick with us. We have a
Yes.
lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah. We'll
Definitely.
definitely be bringing you guys some interesting content on the gaming front that is including Marvel Snap when me and Kenny finally do our versus
Yes.
battle with each other. But yeah, pretty much all I want to say is everybody, the East Coast is on fire, so please wear your masks. And it
Yeah.
just, yeah. And for anybody who's not on the East Coast and you're on the West Coast, we know that you guys are used to these types of fires and stuff, but this is not the disaster Olympics. So let's just,
Yeah, please stop.
pray for everybody. Like this, it's not. I don't this discourse online. It's just kind of crazy. Like people, just please wear your mask. Like get yourselves some N95 masks and wear them because it is bad outside. I'm sorry, I went outside this morning and I breathed in cinder. It's like smoking a Newport out there. So just take care of yourselves, people. It's not safe,
Yeah.
and COVID's still a thing. So wash your wash your hands, wash your faces, wash your butts, and we'll see you next time. Bye.